Hi guys, it's Wade McMaster here. Got another video for you today. This time we're going through the Gutenberg editor and just sort of basically going through and exploring all of the various modules and how this editor works. So that way, if you're new to WordPress or you're making the switch from the classic editor to the new editor, you can actually check this out and figure out exactly how things work. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off. I've got a new blog post here. If you don't know how to create new blog posts or pages, I do have other videos for that, which I'll link to below. But this is basically how you can use the editor itself for writing a page or a post. So first thing I'm going to do, obviously, is give it a title. So I'm going to call this How to Create a Website. So this is just a dummy title. I'm not really coming up with anything in particular. And I'm going to show you, so the way this editor works is we get these blocks. So you can see this is a title block, and this here is a block, and we simply add blocks down the page as we go. Or if you just simply want to start typing, you can start typing like, hi, my name is Wade. You can backspace, enter. This is my website. And you can type a full paragraph, more here, and simply type away. And you see here we've got these three blocks, because every time I hit enter, I'm creating a new paragraph, which then creates a new block. And with these blocks, we can format our text. I can make it left, center, right, left, bold, italics, or I can even add a link here, which I can type in the link or even just type in the name of the page, and it'll actually bring up a number of pages I can link to, and then create a link. And of course, I also have the strike through option, that sort of thing. And then of course, I have further options. If I want to, I can remove this block. I can create what's called a reusable block, which I do have another video which explores that. It's a bit in depth to go into it within this video, so we'll also link to that below. But we have all our options such as edit as HTML, so I can actually go through and edit the HTML code, or I can switch back to edit visually. And we can insert blocks after, before, or even duplicate a block. So that is basically how this works. The other thing too is every time I select a block, which we'll go through and explore with all these options, if I select this block, on the right, there are document settings, which I can go through. Or if I select the block, bring up the block settings, and there's all these other sections I can go through. I can change the background color to yellow, make the text black. If you're a web developer, or you can type in some CSS classes for when you're coding your styles. But I can also do things like make the text larger. I can make it medium size. I can even add a drop cap in there. So you get all these nice little options on the right. So that is basically how you can start typing. Now what I also want to do, and I have covered some of this in another video, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, is I can add an image. So I can simply go down the bottom here and add an image, or I can click a plus in between two blocks and add the image in between. So I go here to image, go to media library, and I pick an image, let's say this one here, select, and I've added an image in between these blocks. Now one of the cool things about this is I can actually left align this image, and I can make it smaller so that the text sits off to the right, or I can right align it, or I can center it and it'll go in between again. And then of course I can resize as I see fit from there. The other thing too is now that we're on the image, we have some settings down the right here. You can add an alt tag, so maybe we want to say headphones. So you do want to try and add an alt tag for your search engine optimization, because these are keywords that search engines pick up when they scan the document. So once again, this is the same spot as the text. We've gone to the right sidebar and we have our block settings. I can change the size of the image here. I can even do it down to the pixel or percentage, that sort of thing. I can reset, and I can even go down here and link off to another URL, type in the link here, even open it in another window. So we have all these options, and of course again we have our link. We have some CSS like classes and more advanced things for web designers and developers if they want to add certain identifiers there when they're coding. But once again, all these settings down the right are what make up your settings for this image. So I'm just going to go down the page and we're going to go through and we're going to add some blocks, and we're just going to explore things as we go. So what I'm going to do is, if I want to keep just adding down the page, there's actually also some options up here. And first of all, what I can do is go here and it'll show me the blocks we've added in order on the page. I can also see how many words I've typed, headings, paragraphs. By clicking this information button, I have an undo and a redo if I want to as well. But if I want to add a block, I can either just hit enter, to add a block and then click this plus button, or I can go up to the very top left here and click add block with this plus button here. Now this is where all of our options are. Now these most used ones, I'm going to close them for now because those will be very particular to how you work. So these are all going to be down below as well. So I'm going to close these most used and we're going to start at the top and go through some elements. Now you're probably wondering what the difference is between an image and an inline image. If I add an inline image and I select this one here, what I can do is, at the moment, this image is, I can make it bigger or smaller, and I can actually type text along with it. So it actually goes in line with the text. This is not a very desirable thing, but for some people, you may want this because it means that you can have it in the middle of a line, such as, you know, this is my space, on the other side, image, and you can type and add images within the text. This could be good though if you want to add, say, like a small Facebook icon. So let's say you have find us on Facebook. Now let's say I want to move this image. If I go, I want to move this text. Sorry. This is my image, find us on Facebook. If this was a Facebook icon, I could actually shrink that down and have that sitting next to the text like that. So that is one use you can if you decide you want to have images within your text. Now we're going to go up here again, scroll past the most used, and we're going to go to common blocks. This is where you use most of your options. Now Ninja Forms is actually a plugin, so I'm not going to touch on that because we're not looking at the Ninja Forms plugin, we're just looking at the basic Gutenberg editor. Now the text you've seen above is a paragraph, so we've already looked at that. We've also already looked at an image, but maybe I want to add a heading or a subheading. If I click on heading, you can see here we can have subheading, and over on the right here I can change the alignment as usual. I can give it an anchor, once again, the more advanced things, or I can simply change the heading. Now, heading 1 is the highest priority heading, which is usually reserved for the title of the blog post. So I recommend going heading 2 or onwards. Now the way that works is if I have this heading and then maybe I have some content and I lead into some more information within this heading, I can type in subheading 2, and I can even go here and change the block type to a heading and make that a heading 3. So these are subheadings that allow you to break up your content as you're going. Now I'm going to copy a bit of text here just so that way we can see, you can see that the paragraph, we can add paragraphs in, we can copy and paste, we can move things up and down, or we can click and drag, and it's really quite simple using these arrows on the left here to move things around. So the next one we're going to go to is, I'm also going to remove this block. So if I click here on the 3 dots, I can click remove block and it's gone. So I'm going to look at the next one. I'm going to click add up the top here. And now I'm going to move on to the gallery. So let's say you want to add a gallery of images onto your website. If I click the gallery here and go to media library. Now once again, I can go to upload files here and upload a series of files. But for now, I'm going to click a few images, create a new gallery, and this is my gallery. I can give them captions such as subscribe, headphones, phone, and I'll show you these blank so you can see how they look. So I'll insert the gallery. You see we've got this gallery of images. Now one thing you can do, like any other WordPress, you can obviously add more images, is you can preview your work. So I'm going to click preview. First of all, I'm going to save the draft. Now one thing I have noticed is the old editor you could preview at any time, but this one you do need to sort of save your draft before you preview. Sometimes it doesn't quite work the way you want it to. But this is our gallery. We've got our images here. We've got captions. So that's how you can add some images in there, and it automatically sort of lays them out with, you know, how many different columns will fit nicely within your block. So I'm going to go back to the post now. As you can see, so I'm going to go back to the post now. And back to our gallery. Now I can change the columns over here on the right using the block. I can change it to 4, 5, even make it down to 2, so we get this other here. So we can actually get these nice little things going like that. Now one thing we can do also is change, if we want the images to link somewhere, we can link to the media file. If I save that draft and preview again, you see here now when I click this, it just goes to the image. Now the problem with that is, it's not bad, but the only problem is it actually just takes you off the post onto the image. So if I go back and go back to our editor, I can try an attachment page, and then I can save that draft. Preview that. So now when I click on this, it actually goes to a page with the image within it, and we can go back using our back arrows. But one thing that is missing out of this particular block is the fact that if I link off to a media file, I can't actually get this to open in a new window. That's one issue I do have with the new gallery with WordPress, is that just simply that functionality is missing. But yes. If you do download, like I use the Divi theme, which allows you to replace the gallery with the Divi gallery, it gives you the option to have a lightbox or something like that instead, and that way you're not sort of going off page every time you insert a gallery and that sort of thing. All right, so moving on, we're going to go add another block here. And so I'm going to add a list. So if you're actually adding dot points to your post, we can add these dot points here, and you can change from a numbered list to a dotted list. So I can say dot point 1, dot point 2, 3, and you see I've got 3 dot points. But I can change it, like I said here, by going across, I can change it to a numbered list or a dot list again. I can move it in. Typically, you should be able to move that in. I don't know why that's not working, but you can indent certain items like that. There we are. So it sits underneath. I can even get this one, indent, indent again, indent back. So you can actually move it and have dot points within dot points. And that's basically how that one works as well. So that's a basic way to create a bulleted point. If I go back, creating dot points within your post, you would now use the dot point block. Okay, so going in here again, you can see we've also got a few things here like quotes. So if we want to add a quote, like this is my quote by, John Smith, the famous John Smith, we now have this nice quote block, and it shows us exact, so that way we can actually quote someone and have it looking a little different from the rest of the post. So if I save that, we can preview this again and see how this looks. You see we've got this nice quote. This is my quote by John Smith. And then of course if I head back, we do have some options like some styles here. We can have large, regular. Like, it's not a huge variance there, but at least you do have some options. And as usual, your usual text options there. So moving on to another block here. Audio. So maybe if you have a podcast or an audio file you want to add here, you can upload or go to your media library and add an audio file in there. I actually don't have any audio files to add, but this is just basically how you would add an audio player. But you get the idea, we get this nice little audio player. So moving on again. Now this is an interesting one, is the cover. If I click on the cover, I go to media library. I'm going to add a picture in there. Now this is why it's interesting, because it's not just an image, but something you can type over the top of. So that way you can have a background image if you choose and type in, look at this heading, and you get this really cool section with a bit of text on it. As again, you can link it up, you can change some of the formatting. You can also make this a right aligned heading and have it alongside some of your text. So let's say I center this again, I move it up a few notches up into the paragraph here. I can right align this next to my text or left align. So you can actually have a nice little call to action. If you have a page you want to link to, you can add a link and go that way. And as I'll explore in another video, you can also add this as a reusable block. So if you want to create a call to action, you can pop on all your pages and update globally. You can do that as well. So that's pretty cool. The other thing is now you do have some other settings, such as the overlay color. You can fix the background so as you scroll, the background moves. You can turn that off. I can make the overlay red, gray, black. I can choose a color. I can choose a color. It even change how strong the background color is overlaid. So if you decide you want to design an image and you don't want an overlay on it, you can just turn the overlay off or crank it up. It's pretty much up to you. So what I'm going to do now is turn that fixed background on, save this draft, and we're going to have a look at this in action so you can see exactly how it looks. Now, of course, if I preview this, now your themes style or the way you've set up your fonts and everything on your website is going to dictate what font is used. But you can see here, we've got our heading. As I scroll, the image moves with it. I don't know if you can see it because it's very faint, but the image moves with the scroll. And of course, I can turn that off and just have the image sit there as normal. So you see now with this left align, things are looking a little bit messy, but you can start to see what the possibilities are with this new editor. You can really set things up row by row. We've got our audio player here without a file attached to it. So you've got a few options here already that make things pretty interesting. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to add another block. Now we've gone through most of our common blocks. We can add a file if we want to. So I'll go to Media Library again. Maybe I'll just add this image as a file. Whoops, what have I done here? Sorry, I've gone to the wrong section. But you can see we've created this nice little download here. And of course, so that way I can copy the URL and create a download button for a file, which is pretty handy. Now, of course, because I had this selected up here, it's added the block in where I was editing. So if I want to continue on, I can actually click here, and once again, if I go to add block, I can go back down, add that file in there, select a different file, upload a file, maybe it's PDF, start to get the idea. So now we have a little download file. Next one we're going to add now, and of course, before I go any further, if you highlight this, you can edit this by clicking the pencil button, and you can change what file you're using. So pretty simple, you can copy the URL there. But now we're going to move on to another block, and you can also add a video. Now with this video, it's not like adding a YouTube video. It's just like the media library and the audio. You want to upload a file, and then it'll actually insert that video on the page for people to play. I don't recommend this because you really should have video hosting and use the URL from a video host and not use a basic hosting package like HostGator or something to actually host your videos, because it's not really designed for that. But that is how you can add a video if you do have an actual video host or a server which hosts your videos. So now we're starting to get into some more of the other bits and pieces. We're probably not going to go through as much of this, but you can see here we can add in some HTML code if we want to. Write some code, and this will actually show up as code on the page. So if I say, script, can't type very well, this is some code you can copy, script, this will show up as code on the page. So once again, if I save that draft, I'll preview it and show you what I mean. I scroll down and it shows it as code, so that way if you want to share some code, maybe you're a designer, you can actually get the code here and allow people to copy it. But if you want to actually insert code that is functional, we actually go back into add block, into formatting, and custom HTML. We can go in there, we can write HTML, and this will act as code on our page, and we can even preview it. So maybe I go something basic such as this. I can then preview it and it just says hi. But of course, if you've got more in-depth code, you can preview how the code will actually work. So once again, going up top to the add block, down to formatting again. If you're used to the classic WordPress editor, you can actually go classic and add what's called a classic block. This allows you to go in and add edit HTML. Okay, we've got a bit of a problem here with this one. The classic block I have had some trouble with in the past, but basically you can edit it and it'll have a standard WordPress bar in there. So let's say, we'll try that again. Formatting, classic. All right, that's not really working. So let's save that draft. Refresh. Okay, so I'll go up the top here and I add a block, scroll down to formatting, I add my classic block. We do have a bit of an issue. For some reason, this isn't working. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this block. But the classic block, I do have another video on it. If you want to use the old WordPress editor within this, you can add a classic block and it will have the old style editor within it. So let's go back into the formatting blocks here. We've got pre-formatted. So this is just a pre-formatted area. So basically we can give it a class and create like a pre-formatted sort of bit of text. It's not something most people would really use too often, but it's just another way of adding text onto your page and having some control over it for more advanced users. And the other one is if I scroll down to formatting, we can also add a pull quote. So we can write here, this is a pull quote. There's another way you can add a quote to your page and have it really visual. Once again, our buddy John Smith. And now I can add some color in there by making the bars a different color, make the text orange or green, and change a few styles. Maybe I want to make it solid. So you can actually add in a few different things. It's kind of like our cover image without the image. We can add solid colors in there and text and create these little quotes. And yeah, it's just another way to get a bit more style into your blog posts. So moving on again, we can also add in tables. This is something I found was a little bit sort of missing in the old editor, is I can create a table. So let's say I want to have 5 columns, 10 rows. Maybe I want to create a timetable to display. I can type in Monday, Tuesday. You get the idea. When, the, Friday, and we can start typing in little bits and pieces into here. Now, of course, we do also have some styles here again, where we can actually choose to display things a little differently. Fixed width table cells, we can make sure that they don't get any wider than a certain width, or we can have them more responsive to the content. So you can create tables quite easily now by adding a table under the formatting block. There. So once again, I'm going to go through. We've got one more, which is a verse. Now you can, like I said, you can insert poetry and add in. So this is a good way to add in more information. So I'll just copy a paragraph here. Now let's save. And we're going to preview what we've done again so far. Just going back over what we've created. Scroll down, you can see now we've got our pre-formatted area similar to our code area. We've got our pull quote here. We also got our table, which doesn't have much information in it, and you can add a nice area here. We can put a bit of information and have it sort of like encapsulated in. This is the verse block, encapsulated within a certain width, and people can scroll along as opposed to just reading normally, which I personally don't understand the use of that, but it is there. All right, so we're starting to get towards the end of it really, because once you get past these here, you're starting to get into more advanced territory. We can add some widgets such as shortcode. We won't go into this. Categories, your latest posts. So these are things, so if I have a blog, maybe I can add a latest post widget in there. It'll show my latest posts, that sort of thing. So you do have a few cool options like that, more widgets such as the categories you've created, even the latest comments, some of your archives. Now this is something I do think is pretty handy, because if you want to create an archive page for your website, you can actually have create an archive block, and it'll pull all of your latest like a history of your content in there. So you can see here we've got dates, and you can go through and find what you want. So that is pretty cool, because the archive page is something that a lot of people like to use if they have a very full-on blog and people want to go exploring through those archives. So you so the widgets are the same as what you use in the sidebar. You can add a shortcode. Layout elements is an interesting one. This is where you can start to get quite visual. You can add media and text. So we can add some, like an image on the right, content on the left. Hi, this is some content. Add an image. Similar to what we've done above, except this is custom. This is built purposely for that reason, is to have a certain amount of content here. Because at the moment, we've got this here, and it's sort of everything just keeps sort of lining up next to it until it goes past. With this particular block, with the image on the left, you can control exactly the amount of content that goes down the right. So if I copy again a large sum of text, we do get this nice long section here, and it doesn't sort of flow around. It just simply has a couple of columns. And of course, as usual, if I click on some blocks, I can move this around. I can move to the right, to the left. I can stack on mobile or not stack on mobile. So if someone's on a phone, it'll actually move the image above or below the text. And we get this nice little setup here. And within that, we do have some blocks. So we can move these up and down as we wish. We can remove, and you can see how that works. So moving on down to the bottom here, we can add in, now I do have another video on this, we can add a page break, which allows, if you have a blog post, you can have it split up into 1, 2, or 3 or 4 more pages. Add a separator, which is a simple line, or a spacer, which simply creates a bit of space, and we can resize that. You can start to see just about anything that most standard blog posts would need can be found here. Now, the ones that are probably going to be the most interesting to people are the buttons. So if I create a button here, I can type in a URL, maybe it's Google, google.com. I can change this to visit Google. This will work the same way. If you had a downloadable file, you could just use this for the exact same thing if you wanted to. And basically we get a downloadable button. Now let's get into some more interesting stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add up here another block in between. I'm going to go to formatting, and I'm going to add, I've gone to the wrong area. Sorry, go to layout elements. I'm going to add columns. Now this is interesting because now I can move this and these elements into a columned area. And I can even add more in by going to the top and clicking add a block, such as a paragraph. This is column 1. Now things are starting to look a little confusing on screen, but just bear with me. If I click in between these columns, I can select, you can see here, we've got the column block. Over here, we can change how many columns we want. So if you want to create a page that has columns of content, you can have as many as 6 columns, and simply then add blocks within. So if I go here, add a paragraph block, I've got that. Actually, that is one thing I did remember, is that if you click over here, adds a block underneath the column widget. But if you go to the top, we can type here column 3, and we can continue to go through. We want to use this blue one that pops up above or below the block, whereas this one goes underneath the column. So I want to go here, same here. If we click here, I want to go to the top and add in my list here. And we actually have these series of columns. And it can be a bit difficult to actually click on it. This is one thing. If I click here, click there. So you want to find a bit of blank space below a column, click in there to select the entire thing. In that way, you can even sort of select between columns. So find a bit of blank space so you can actually select this column, and you can even remove it if you want to. So that's pretty cool. Being able to play with columns in Gutenberg is a pretty handy part of the editor. So moving on, like I said, we're starting to get towards the end of things now. We've gone through most of the layout elements, widgets. Embeds I'm not going to go into, but I will show you. You can simply have an embed. So you type in a bit of code. But one thing that's really cool about these embeds now is that if you want to embed a Twitter tweet, you can simply click a Twitter, YouTube video, Instagram post. All of these are built for the purpose of adding in sections from these websites. I could spend hours going through this section, but it's something that's probably worth just exploring yourself if you do want to. I do recommend using an HTML code block for YouTube, so that way you can choose the privacy enhanced mode. But other than that, this is all pretty solid. It's a good way to add a bit of content to your site with embeds. So a bit of a long video, a little bit all over the place, but I just wanted to show you, just by adding in blocks, you can see what all these blocks do on the Gutenberg editor, and it gives you an idea of what's possible when creating a blog post. Now, obviously, with a bit of a vision, you can get something that looks better than this. This isn't exactly the most attractive blog post in the world. It's probably definitely one of the ugliest blog posts you've ever seen. But you can see what's possible. We can add text and image. We can add these little headings off to the right. We can change the appearance of our text. Got our little gallery, some dot points, quotes, audio. We can add in video, tables, little widget areas. We can visit Google, set in links and buttons. So it's very easy to do whatever you want. And you can, of course, add in blocks within columns. And so that even makes it more interesting, as we can create columns, have custom content within those columns, and really do whatever we want with this editor. Now, of course, in the future, I can do more specific tutorials, but this is enough to sort of get your head into the game and figure out how things are working. So I do hope you enjoyed that video. I do have a lot more videos coming on using this editor, creating certain areas within your page quite easily, and allowing you to really step up and do advanced functionality on your blog posts and pages using the basic editor that comes with WordPress. Now, if you do want more videos like this, I do request that you subscribe using the subscribe button below. I also have, if you want to get started, a free email course. It shows you how to start a website, get things up, and get people moving and sort of onto your website. And that should help you move ahead and improve your presence online. So I do hope to see you again shortly. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you later.